Hi. I, I'm I'm disappointed that I have to. I'm disappointed that I'm making this video because it could have been prevented. The incident that happened could have been prevented. So there was a young woman. I don't know if you've heard about this yet, but a young woman, 21 years of age, mother, a working mom, was on a Zoom call and on that Zoom call the participants, the other employees, heard a loud noise and they saw one of the participants, just the deceased, head fall back. And then they saw blood coming out of the deceased person. Of course, they immediately called 911 and they took the right steps. But in this case, a young woman was killed. She lost her life from an incident that could have been prevented. That young woman is no longer with us. I pray that her family finds peace. I pray that her children finds peace and happiness. I pray that the man, the male who was in the house, finds peace. I pray that those kids, especially the toddler who pulled the trigger, finds mental peace. This is very tragic and unfortunate for that family. But it could have been prevented. It could have been prevented. I hear about these cases often. So, I know some people think that it's easy and they should be doing it. And I think it is. I agree. I think it is easy to lock weapons in a safe place, away from children. I totally agree with that. But there are some people who may not be as responsible, or they just may not be that much more proactive than the next person with storing weapons or locking triggers. And this is what happens in those instances. So this 21-year-old mom was in Altamonte Springs, Florida. And as I stated, she was working, supporting her family, and she lost her life. Now, for that weapon that was unsecured, there's a law in Florida that requires weapons be secured. That law is Florida Statute Section 790.174, and it requires that a loaded gun, a loaded firearm in the home be stored in a locked box container or secured with a trigger lock. Trigger locks are simply locks that prevent the trigger from being pulled. The statute requires a loaded firearm in the home to be stored in a locked box container or secured with a trigger lock if the owner reasonably knows that a child under the age of 16 can gain access to the firearm. Violation of that law is a misdemeanor. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this case plays out, because there is an owner of that weapon. The child wasn't the owner, so there's an owner who is going to have to answer to this. You just have to see the facts of the case, see more of the facts as they come out concerning this case. But it certainly sounds like an incident that could have been prevented. 100%. 100% this incident could have been prevented. So this incident happened in the state of Florida. So there's another incident where a 25-year-old mom of 5 was shot. She was shot. And she was actually in the bedroom with 4 of her children at the time, as the facts say. The youngest child was also shot in this incident that occurred in North Carolina. So the mother was shot and the youngest child was shot. The youngest child is recovering with non-life-threatening injuries. This is per report. I'll put the location of this information in under the video, but it says the 25-year-old mom was at home with her children when she was fatally shot. Police are saying that the shot was inadvertent, and they're suspecting that the children found the gun inside of this 25-year-old mom's purse in North Carolina. Once again, I go back to the saying of locking these weapons and storing these weapons. Trigger locks are helpful in the sense that if a weapon is accessed by a child, they can't pull the trigger. it's important that we keep these weapons out of the hands of children, because obviously they're understanding how to pull these triggers, and they're understanding where to aim. They're understanding what to do, but they don't realize the consequences of what they're doing. We're talking kids, toddlers. They don't realize the consequences of what they're doing. Where do they get this? Where do they get this from? You know, how to aim and pull the trigger. Where are they getting this from? I'm thinking they're getting it from television or video games. I can't say music, especially if they're just listening to the music, because they don't have a visual of what's going on. Talking toddlers. Now, I could see if the video, if it was a music video, and they were able to, get a visual description of what's going on then, but that goes back to television. So these children have to get this from television or video games. When I say this, I'm speaking of, learning how to access a weapon, to grab a weapon, point it at a human, aim it, and squeeze the trigger. This type of incident happens far too often across the U.S., and it can be prevented. People, I hope we begin to prevent incidents like these more often. Please, let's prevent this from happening. Small corrections can go a long way. These 2 lives that we lost here recently because of this, and there are many other incidents that have not been reported where people may have just been shot, not even killed, but they've been shot because of an unsecured weapon. This is something that is definitely preventable, 100% preventable. Please go to your local police station and get a lock for your weapon. Get a trigger lock for that weapon. They're free. Please don't be a person who gets wounded or killed because of something like this that could have been preventable with locking and storing a weapon away from children. I hope we learn our lesson from these unfortunate events. Again, I offer my sympathy to this family, to both of these families that lost two young women, 2 beautiful young women, to incidents like these. Offer my prayers to the family. I pray that the families find peace. I pray that they help those children who witnessed it, the children who were involved, find peace. I pray that all of the family members and relatives, friends involved in this find peace and move on, because they lost someone important in their life. They'll never see that person again. I pray that they find peace and happiness and they can move on from this. Thank you. Have a good day.